I guess we'll go ahead and do some housing for the brakes and stuff like that. Blowers are back. Sorry about that. Let's go ahead and run our cable housing for this front brake right here. Just going to come on down, boom, connect right here. We're going to use our little barrel adjuster. We're going to use our noodle, pretty common with V-brakes, even with the Paul brake here. This one has a built-in barrel adjuster, so we can make some fine tuning, get the brakes to feel tighter as the brake pads wear out. That's what that's for. That's going to fit. Ooh, that guy's tight. It's going, wow. There we go. It looks like it's screwed on here, but it's going to fit something just like that. Boom. Over here is our pinch bolt over here. Whoops. All right, so we're gonna get some brake cable. Causing a big ruckus. So I usually go with this Jaguar stuff here. A brake housing is going to be about 5 millimeters thick. It's going to have a stronger metal reinforcement inside here, more than derailleurs. So I can go ahead and push that in here, and I'm going to hold my wheel and something like that. So I'm working with the box, so it's a little awkward, but I can see right about there I got a nice curvature, and I'm going to be going into my noodle, so this is definitely enough. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this so I don't have to play with this box. Heavy box, it's pretty full right now, and I'm using cable. These are cable and housing cutters specifically, not wire cutters. Wire cutters are going to just crush the wire reinforcement in here, and it's going to make a mess of the cut. If you have a little end piece of metal that's kind of covering the hole, it's a little, I don't know, like a flake in a sense, a metal flake. We got to get back in there, and you're going to use the edge of the blade to get underneath it. Even you can bend it upward. This guy's looking, well, there's a little bit. This is totally going to be hard to see on video, but if we can get underneath it, give it a clip, point it away from you and anybody, because it will go flying. And if you're unsure, just go ahead and run the cable through it, and cable will let you know if the area is clogged. So we're just going to go give it a poke. I need to open up my plastic as well, but again, we'll get better info once we run a cable through it. But this is for the mock-up here. Stick that there. Grab our noodle, and we still need end caps, but we're just going to do a dry fit right here, and that's going to fit there. Boom. And so we have this curve right here, so that's pretty decent. And then, so I'm happy with that for now. So let's get some end caps. Typically the end caps are going to be chrome, but they can come in any colors. Again, they got to be for 5 mil, and these just slip on. Whoopsie. And make sure your other end is open as well. And then these slip on. They're not a super tight fit, so if they're slightly loose, don't worry about it, because everything's going to be held on with pressure once we run our cable through here. Ooh, this one has a slight bend in there. When you run your cables through here as well, you're going to feel as it runs through if there's anything going on inside your housing. If it feels rough, then we know it's too kinked and you need to replace it. These here I'm not worried about hitting hard like we were our derailleur ferrule caps. These go on pretty smooth, and then once we squeeze our brakes several times after we're hooked up, it's going to break everything in. Let's grab. We're going to grab a brake cable, and these brake cables, so Jaguar has this as being as 1.6 millimeter thick. So, and the head is very specific. The head has almost like a barrel, a roundness to it, and then 2 flat ends, opposed to just a big rounded head, almost like a bullet shape. The bullet shape is going to be for your road, your drop bars, usually a shifter brake combo, and then this particular one is for everything else. So it's going to be for flat bar, recreational bike, anything out there other than a road shifting style. So I'm going to go ahead and just see here. For this Paul's, we're probably coming in through the bottom. Yeah, there's an opening on the bottom with a slit, so I can slide this in, boom, and it's going to rotate through another slit going this direction. But I'm obviously going to have to run through my barrel adjusters. Just to get you guys a better shot, I'm going to put this handlebar holder on, because this handlebar is going to be flopping around quite a bit. Let's get that straight. So it actually works pretty good. I like this newer version, this telescoping version. I'll show you what's going on underneath here. So when you're first coming in here, and this could be pretty common with most brake levers, there's going to be an opening at the bottom with another slit. So coming in the bottom here, then it wants to come over to the side. Of course now it doesn't want to, but it's going to do this maneuver from this direction to this direction. And then there's another slit in the front, right here in the metal, and all the way through the barrel adjusters as well. So there's a slit in the barrel adjuster. It might be hard to see because it's so damn shiny, everything's blending in, but so you have to line up. So you got your lock nut, then your barrel adjuster, and you're getting all three openings in one spot, and this drives right over. Now we can go ahead and turn this guy in. I'm gonna back off the lock nut, screw the whole barrel adjuster in. So from the outside, for this one, I'm gonna drive this all the way in till it stops. Boom. Now this will not, now the slots are not lined up, so this cannot slip back out. So we should be good there. So we got that cable in place. These guys are roughly in place as well when I installed these. Just a rough placing here in the middle. We got some spring tension, brake pads. Again, don't have to be perfect, but definitely hitting the sidewall more or less so we can get a rough adjustment going forward. So we're gonna run this through, and then people ask, do we need to lubricate the cable? You can, but most of the time we're getting a pretty slippery feel, and you'll get that feeling too when you first run this through. So then you can kind of slide this, and this feels really slippery. You could enhance it, throw some light chain lube in there, or really light thin grease, something that's not going to be thick, so when if it does get dusty, it's not slowing stuff down. And so with the Pauls here, or even just a regular one, but this one, pretty not common where we have a barrel adjuster on the noodle. This is a nice feature right here, so we can make some adjustments. Usually you have one on your lever, but we also have two here, so you can exhaust both of them if you really need to. But I'm not going to put any lubrication here. I feel pretty good about that. Only in troubled areas. So as I'm running this through, I'm getting stuck right off the bat. I'm going to push. Let's see here. I'm feeling the cables just to see if there is any lube through here, which I'm not finding. And I think I could barely see a plastic sleeve in here. So there's most likely a plastic liner, I would think. Otherwise it would be metal on metal. But I'm going to assume they put some plastic, which is going to cut down on tension or resistance. So this fits in there nicely. Kapow, just like that. And then this guy's tight, so we're going to loosen that up. And with these cable pinch bolts, you can do this with anything, whether it's a derailleur or brakes. When in doubt, we need to know where this cable goes. Hoorah. Boom, let's lock that in there. We need to know where the cable goes. The cable can either go on top, can go on bottom, or if it's coming down from the side, it can be left side, right side. So we can take this off all the way. So this is going to be the bolts and the washer. We can look behind the washer. Washer's pretty flat. We are going to look at the component now. There's going to be a groove somewhere that's going to allow the cable to run. So it's actually going to sit inside the groove, and then it's going to get pinched with our cable pinch bolt. So that groove is going to allow the cable to be hugged tightly rather than have two flat surfaces, and when you tighten down your nut and washer, the cable starts to get crushed and it gets flattened out, and that's where you start breaking your cable strands, and we get frays. But this one is landing, boom, right there. So I don't know if you could see that one. So this one's going to come across, and here's my groove right there. So this, if we're putting this bolt back on, the cable is actually going underneath. So if you put it on top, you might catch it, you might not, it might kind of want to get spit out there. If this is a derailleur, if we put it on the wrong side, it could mess up our whole leverage pull, which could give you extra tension or resistance in your lever. So with this one here, we could put a little bit of grease on this bolt, which I think I'll do. Yeah, just a little pinch right there. I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my tool. I'm going to try and line it up. So let's get the bolt started. And then just make sure everything's sitting right. Just some gentle tension. Now I want to pull everything tight. Make sure this is sitting properly in here. And I'm just going to continue. So if my groove is running this way, I'm going to just pull this cable this way. And I'm just going to use fingertips and make sure we go underneath that washer. So I just popped out. There we go. So for the first initial adjustment, I'm just going to squeeze tight. A little tricky here to make sure everything's mating properly. So we want our housing and our noodle, and then same all the way up into the lever, and then our noodle into our brake arm. Pull that tight. Ooh, grab my tool. So I can kind of use this finger too, so I'm kind of pushing forward, boom, and then I'm going to pinch these two fingers. That's all I need. I don't need pliers. I'm not going to wrap it around my fingers and cut my circulation off. And then give that a spin. And just gentle enough to hold in place right now. I should go a little bit tighter. Boom. So now the cable's running in the right spot. We're looking nice and clean. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this a little bit down. Careful, don't scratch your bars. I'm just going to snug this up so it's not moving on me. So now I can give this a little test pinch and say that's running pretty tight. Right off the bat, we have one side moving, the other side stationary, but not too worried about that. So here we can break in this whole system. We need to seat the ferrule cap onto the housing and this whole unit into this brake lever. Same thing on this side. So we're going to give it 10 hard squeezes, but make sure your cable pinch bolt is tight and appropriate. Probably talking about 4 Newton meters if you were to actually put a tool on it. So this is where I will go ahead and tighten this up. And I'm just using the torque wrench in my wrist right now. And when in doubt, go light side, and then as you squeeze this, because usually I'm going to squeeze this as hard as I can. You're kind of giving it that emergency squeeze if your car was pulling out in front of you. If it's going to slip, then you're going to find out. Then we know we got to tighten this a little tighter, and rather have it slip here than out there on the road. So, and right now my pads are roughly lined up. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so I actually got a little bit looser, so everything's settled in. Everything got nice and tight here and here. But right now we have the one side working right now. I'm not worried about that right now. We can basically, it could mean right off the bat that this spring is a little dominant. We need to increase tension on this spring. So right now the wheel won't move because this brake is rubbing. So as soon as we increase tension over here, everything's going to shift that direction and take this pad off of the rim. So if our space is narrow between the two, we need to create more space, and that would be indicated too by this lever barely moving. So if I want to release some tension, I'm going to pinch again. So I'm going to go ahead and use my finger as a lock. I'm going to brace against my component, this finger here, and then pinch. So if I need to pull, I'm going to pull back this way, or I'm going to give this way. So I need to give. I'm going to let some cable out. So this way everything's locked. As soon as I open that up, I'm not going to lose my adjustment. I'm going to feed some cable that way. And that could be about 3, 4, 5 millimeters. And then snug back up. Now we have a bigger gap on this side. Ooh, still touching big time over there, but when I go back to my lever, I can actually pull a little bit more. Now I have a bigger gap right in there. I can stick my finger right there. So now this guy's definitely moving quite a bit. So now I'm definitely confirming that this spring is either dominant or this spring is just weak. Either way, we need to increase tension on this side over here. So I'll do that quick adjustment right there. So I believe this size here, if we're working with the Paul levers, is going to be, was a 14 millimeter. And we're using a flat side wrench. Oh, dang it. That's a big boy, that was 15. Yep, oof, that's kind of loose. Let's try that 14. The better the tool fits, the less chance you're going to strip or mar up your pretty metal. Yeah, it's going to be a 15. So tools can wear out too, so be aware of that. So yeah, but we shouldn't have to apply a whole lot of tension here, so there's going to be very little chance that we're going to mar up our area. Alright, so we're going to increase tension. I need it to come this way because we have a gap over here. We need an even gap on both sides. So this middle one is going to increase our tension. That's going to be a 5 millimeter hex there. Alright, so putting my tool, both these tools together. So as soon as I crack it loose with this guy, I'm going to increase tension with this one, and I'm going to go in a clockwise motion. I think that's going to put pressure on the spring. We're also trying to pay attention to the brake arm itself. It's kind of up in a 12 o'clock position. So crack that loose. And actually, I'm feeling spring tension, so I'm going to pull back this way. I feel tension coming this way. If I go that way, it releases. So I'm actually going to go counterclockwise. And my spoke wants to run into the spoke, so I'm going to stop there. Freeze that left hand with the wrench, and then snug this up very tight. At least a very tight snugness. And let's see what that did. Now I can get some movement there. Still have a better gap here, but pads are still kind of out of alignment as well. So we're kind of going back and forth, back and forth. I might straighten a pad, boom, work on everything else. So hit this lever. That's good. So now we have a sign of life over here. Still have a pretty good gap here. We can get a spin, but still rubbing over here. So we just need to tighten up a little more. So we need this arm to go back that way. So when I have my wrench here, I will be going back that way in the direction I want this to go. So let's put a little more tension. Here's where probably a shorty wrench would come in handy, because I'm running right into the spokes. But they have shorter wrenches, about yay height. But let's see if I can maybe squeeze through these spokes. Let's see. Yeah, roughly, maybe roughly about there. So get my tool, whoop, wrong tool. Let's get that out of there. So I'm gonna freeze my wrench hand. Don't want to move. I want to keep that adjustment. Oh, just lost it. That's okay. Crack that loose. Come back. Now we just saw the whole arm move. All right. So now I have a pretty good gap on this side. Now rubbing on this side, let's hit that lever. Now this guy is dominant, so I kind of overdid it there. So let's get the wrench back on there. And this will probably be easier if I wasn't paying attention to keeping my hands out of the camera. So I'm gonna crack that loose. As soon as I did that, my hand did move, so that could just be appropriate enough. So now we have free movement of the wheel. So now we have pretty good space. Still a bigger gap on this side. We're gonna go ahead and hit this lever. And we got good movement on both sides. So I'm pretty happy with that for now. And then we can always go back, look at our brake pads, get your eyeball on the side view, bottom view, top view. We don't want this pad hanging too low off of the sidewall braking surface, too high where it's going to be hitting our tire when we get that tire on there. But that's pretty good. The feel feels pretty good too. It springs back nicely. Now if this was a weak spring back, or it took its time coming back or didn't come back at all, then we need to create more spring tension here. So we're tightening both sides and trying to do it evenly.